Let's do that one more time. Hujambo! Haligande! It's always an honor and a pleasure to represent the Alkebu-lan village, which is an African-centered village. And we define African-centered to mean embracing the rich history, culture, and tradition of the motherland, Africa. And every villager should know what African-centered means. Every group, every religion, every so-called race of people has a way to include all its members with itself. For example, the Roman Catholic Church calls every Catholic who is living or deceased or in heaven the Holy Mother Church. Every group calls itself the group. Many tribes in the Amazon jungle refer to themselves as the people, the with a capital T. Our own Blackfoot Indians call themselves Na-de-ne, which means the first people. But we Africans are truly the first people. And we have our own ceremony, and that ceremony is called libation. Libation is when we call to ourselves all of the Africans all over the world. And Africans are everywhere. Africans are in Africa. Africans are in Brazil. Africans are in Mexico. Africans are in Europe. Africans are everywhere. We call them all together. All of our ancestors who have left this plane of existence and gone on to another. And we call them to be with us so that they will share their strength, their knowledge, their wisdom, their understanding that we all belong and we will all benefit from their presence. The way we call them to us is by mentioning their name and then using water as a ceremonial salute to them. Now, if you don't know, every living thing known to man contains water. Human beings have a body mass of approximately 95% water. Human beings in the Detroit area use an average of 25 gallons of fresh water each per day. More than 120 million gallons of fresh water escapes from the Detroit Water and Sewerage Processing Plant through broken pipes, drains into the ground, and that's why the water bill is so high. Yes, it is. Now, we're going to talk about the original people, the first Africans, 7 million years ago. 7 million years ago, man came forth upon the earth in Kenya, which is an African nation. Now, all over the world, they're talking about their first Mesopotamia, which became Iraq. They said Mesopotamia is where the first civilization arose. That may be true, but the people in Mesopotamia came from Africa, came from us. So we're going to talk about those first Africans, those antique Africans that are known to the scientists, the paleontologists, all of those culture people. The first African. Now, I call to you, you answer back to me. So after I name the group or the person or the people we're going to honor as our ancestors, and I will say to you, Ashe, you will say Ashe back. I'll say Insa, you will say Insa back. I'll try to keep it Ashe so that we'll be all on the same plane. So, to those first Africans, those early Africans, the antique, the beginning of all mankind, I say to you, Ashe.
Ashe.
You can sing it out. Don't be afraid to holler it out. Shout it out. If you feel it, shout it out. Next, we're going to talk about those Africans, many of whom are known to us through fable and myth. Those famous Egyptian Africans. One African in particular, Akhenaten IV, the first human being to come up with the concept of one God. One God, not hundreds of gods, one God. Akhenaten IV changed his whole Egyptian empire, destroyed all of the other gods in favor of Aten, the one God. So Akhenaten was born, we say Ashe.
Ashe.
To his queen, the famous and beautiful Nefertiti. There's a statue of Nefertiti in Europe. And the Egyptians, who are now Arabs, but they think they are us, and they are only from us. The Egyptians want this statue back. And Mr. Howard, Dr. Howard has already said in his broken English, we just want to borrow Nefertiti. And then he says to the side, because you ain't never going to get it back if we get it back. The most beautiful woman in the world, Nefertiti. To Nefertiti, we see Ashe?
Ashe.
Now, Hatshepsut, the first and only female pharaoh, African woman, who arose to the Egyptian throne. She was the pharaoh as well as God. Hatshepsut. Hatshepsut, you say Ashe?
Ashe.
King Pianki, a very important Nubian, Ethiopian king, who in 627 BC took the Egyptian throne as an African. We have our own King Pianki, who stands right here.
That's right.
A known lecturer, historian. He's one of our own. He's a WTA, which we take to mean the world's greatest anything. King Pianki. To King Pianki, we say Ashe.
Ashe.
Now we'll talk about all of those known Africans. That is not to say that they aren't important Africans, because we are all important Africans. But you see some of them arrayed on the posters around us. We're talking about Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King, and his family. You know that his oldest daughter recently became an ancestor.
Yes.
So we honor her here. We're talking about one of my favorites, Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman, a strong black woman. Don't we have somebody say that one? A strong black woman. Harriet Tubman, single-handed, escaped from slavery in the South, went back to the South at least 15 times, and brought her people back to the North. Truly, truly a hero among us. To Harriet Tubman and all of our other known ancestors. We say Ashe.
Ashe.
Now, we want to get a little personal. We want to get a little personal. And the first person that I want to mention is someone who most of you don't know and never heard of, a young woman named Marilyn O'Brien, who was an outstanding scholar, who finished at Fisk University, got a good job. About a month ago, was driving home when a drunk driver driving in the opposite direction crossed the center lane and struck her head on. And she lived until the ambulance arrived. She was such a good, kind, and loving person that even the police officers, who were the first on the scene, accompanied her to the hospital, knowing that things were going to be all right. And of course, the drunk driver, he didn't have a scratch. So to Marilyn O'Brien, we say, Ashe, all right?
Ashe.
Now, I want all of you to call out the names of anyone close and dear to you. Call them out all together, and during this shout out to our ancestors, we will all say Ashe whenever you want to. Call them out, any name you have.
Willie Ruth. Willie Ruth Wright.
Joseph Lewis.
Tommy Lee Thomas.
Any other name? Come on, call them
Dorothy
out.
Ruth Wright.
Call them out.
Dorothy Ruth.
Call them out. Call them out. Any other ancestors, call them out.
James Brown.
If you have an ancestor, call them out. Because you can feel them here.
James.
Here, right now. Say their names and call them out right now. To all of our ancestors. To all of our ancestors. Say Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe. Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
Now, we come to that part of our ceremony where we have honored our ancestors. You can feel them right here on the blue floor, which we call Merton's Hall, named after our erstwhile WGA Merton Hall, who's somewhere on the premises now. He's shy, so he don't want to be out here with us. But now that we've called our ancestors here, one of the things that they